唔少有 ADHD 子女嘅家長或者係本身有 ADHD 嘅成年人，喺移民咗英國之後，唔知點樣尋求相關嘅治療同埋社會資源。另外早前有唔少朋友喺當地面對 ADHD 藥物短缺嘅情況。今集我哋請到 The ADHD Foundation Neurodiversity Charity 嘅行政總裁 Dr Tony Lloyd 同大家傾下點樣可以喺英國尋求支援。大家好，歡迎收睇 letstalk。今日好高興請到 ADHD Foundation 嘅 CEO Dr Tony Lloyd 接受我哋訪問。咁 ADHD Foundation 而家係全歐洲最大以病人主導嘅 ADHD 組織。咁呢個組織其實一直都同幫緊一啲 ADHD 嘅朋友啦，同埋一啲嘅神經多樣化嘅朋友去提供服務。咁今次請到 Tony 嚟啦，就想講下關於喺英國，如果喺英國ADHD 嘅朋友點樣揾到資源去幫自己或者身邊人，同埋係 ADHD Foundation 嘅工作可以點樣幫到 ADHD 嘅朋友。咁不如請 Tony 同大家 say 個 hello 先啦。Tony
Good evening.
Yeah, hi. Say hi. Thank you for accepting this interview. Let's say hello to everyone.
Hello, everybody, and thanks again, Mike, and everybody at ADHD Hong Kong for inviting me along to speak to you all again. It's great to see you.
Yeah, so Tony, I have a few questions about the UK and the organization. But first, I'm going to ask about in the UK. So, in the UK, if parents suspect their children and adults suspect themselves have ADHD, how can they obtain an initial diagnosis?
Okay. Well, if you're a parent, the first port of call would be talk to your child first and ask them how they are doing. Ask them what they're doing well, what's going well for them at school, and what things might they be finding a bit more difficult. And because the child may not know, the child may not think that they're struggling, the child may think that they're doing fine. Sometimes the child may think that they're struggling and the teacher disagrees and the teacher thinks they're doing fine. So your first port of call, your first thing to do is ask your own child, what's going well for you and what things are you struggling with that you might need help with? And then when you've spoken to your child, make sure that you have read through all the information about how ADHD might present in your child, and particularly whether your child is a girl or a boy, because we know the presentation is slightly different in girls. And there are some free booklets available on our website, and I know there's information on your website where you can go and speak to the teacher. And remember, the teacher might not have had any training in ADHD, so it's important that you as a parent are the expert, that you're knowledgeable, that you're informed, and that you can go into the teacher and say, well, how is my child doing? Because the teacher might just assume that maybe your child is not very intelligent and that's why their grades are not good, when in fact they could be a genius. That's not being reflected in the quality of the work that they're doing in school, because the teacher doesn't understand that it might be ADHD that's affecting their learning. And you also have to remember that nearly half of people with ADHD also have dyslexia, and that about 30% of people with ADHD will also have autism. And sometimes they can all occur together. So you do need to be a parent who's fully informed, and you do need to go in and be able to find out from teachers who know your child best, not just one teacher. Ask to speak to 2 or 3 and ask for the ones who know best, and then find out from them in what ways might your child be struggling and what help does your child need. And actually ask the question, when was the last time the teachers in this school had some training on how to teach children with these different types of learning styles, these different minds? so that they don't confuse learning differences like ADHD and dyslexia and autism, so they don't confuse those with just the child either not trying hard enough or the child not having a very high level of ability. So be an informed parent, work with the school, and then if the school can agree with you what other things need to be put in place to help your child thrive and learn in school, and then if you are both agreed that there is a cause for concern, you contact a local doctor who specializes in childhood ADHD and ask them to do an initial assessment. And the assessment should include both reports from the teacher, reports from the parent, and ideally computer-based cognitive sort of functioning test. For example, like QB test or something like Do It Profiler. And I can share the links for those with you. Remember, children aren't very self-aware, so we adults really have to make a special effort to understand them and to help them, and also to make sure that their teachers the knowledge and the skills to be able to provide an education for your child. If you're an adult, then we ask you to, again, look at the information that we have on our website about what adult ADHD is and what it isn't, and reflect on whether this has been evident in you since you were a child. Because in the UK, and I'm sure this is happening in Hong Kong as well, Mike, is that a lot of parents, it's only when their child gets a diagnosis and they're thinking, oh my goodness, that's me. I was like this when I was a child. But often we're very good at masking our difficulties. And many people with ADHD can still achieve good academic grades in school, but it can take a much tougher toll on them in terms of effort. I used to come home from school absolutely exhausted because my brain was having to work so much harder to focus and concentrate. So it's important that adults can reflect back to when they were a child, and that they speak to a parent or somebody who knows them well, who they can sit and discuss this with and get some objective feedback. And then look at the information about ADHD, whether that's on your website in Hong Kong or ours, and say, there's all the criteria for a diagnosis of ADHD. You don't have to meet all of them, but do I meet most of them? And if so, should I then contact a specialist psychiatrist in ADHD who can do a comprehensive assessment? And remember that as adults, some of you might also have dyslexia or traits of autism, even if you don't meet the diagnostic threshold. But the important thing to remember here, Mike, is we shouldn't define ourselves by a label. We are, each of us, a unique human being with a brain that is as unique as our fingerprints. And understanding that you have ADHD can help you make the right kind of lifestyle choices and help you understand why you might find some things difficult, why you might find some things easy, because sometimes ADHD can be an asset in certain contexts. We know that there are certain careers where people with ADHD thrive and are really successful, for example. So you need to decide for yourself, do I need a formal diagnosis? And if I'm really struggling with a number of things, what strategies, what tools are going to help me manage ADHD successfully? Some people choose to use medication as part of that whole range of strategies. It's important to remember that medication is just a cognitive enhancer. It doesn't change your personality, and it doesn't change every mistake that you've made in your life in the past. And it doesn't make you perfect, and that means that everything that you're going to do from now on is correct. it's the start of a journey of understanding yourself and being healthy, reducing any levels of stress or anxiety that you might have, and helping you make the right choices about what kind of job you do and what kind of support you have. So I am a successful academic, but I also have ADHD. And in my office, I have flip charts, a corkboard, a whiteboard, a secretary, an electronic calendar, an Alexa to remind me, so I can program my Alexa to send me reminders. I have all these different things that help me manage ADHD, as well as taking medication every day. So I know how ADHD affects me, but ADHD can affect other people in slightly different ways. So particularly with women, because we know women tend to be less hyperactive. So it's important that you know what ADHD is, and really important then that you look at all the information that's on the ADHD Hong Kong website, because that's going to help you learn how to live successfully with ADHD.
Mm-hmm. So how about the many people have reported that they had wait a long time before getting an assessment for ADHD from their GP. So besides visiting NHS clinics, what other options? Do they have to seek help from private clinics or professionals?
Yes, or, yes, they do.
Yeah. So any option they can choose.
Yes, yeah. Waiting times can be high in the National Health Service in the UK, which is clearly not very good.
Yeah.
That people are having to wait a long time, and many people do choose to pay privately to see a doctor. Mm-hmm. That is their choice. The only thing, obviously, that we always say to people is make sure that you choose wisely, and that it is somebody who has a good reputation in ADHD, because not all psychiatrists are trained in ADHD. And let's also kind of consider this. You don't have to be a psychiatrist in the UK to do a diagnostic assessment, but you do have to be a psychiatrist to prescribe the medication, because it's a controlled drug. For the time being, anyway, there are discussions taking place about training GPs to be able to do this. But for the moment, that point of initiating medication and what we call titrating medication, where we start people off on a very small dose and we sort of monitor it closely. We might change the type of medication, we might change the dose until we know it's working absolutely fine. So it is about, if you can afford to, you can see somebody sooner by paying privately. But that's not something that everybody can afford.
Yeah, yes. The cost is quite expensive, or is because of the because the NHS.
It shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be.
It's a market economy. And because the NHS is not able to meet demand, then there are a lot of private providers who are now who have tried to fill that gap in what is an emerging marketplace of people looking for health and assessment. But many people in the UK work for global companies who have insurance schemes, so that if you work for that company, they will pay for your assessment and treatment through their occupational health service.
So apart from seeing a GP, so what resources or organizations are available in the UK to help those with ADHD improve their life? Not just only medication, maybe some therapy or some organization or some resources they can get and then to improve their life.
There are a small number of charities like ours that provide information and resources on our websites that are free of charge. Some of the charities provide training programs for parents that can be accessed online. And there are occasionally free live stream webinars on topics like managing anxiety, for example. And we also produce some video shorts that are people with lived experience of ADHD talking about how they've learned to manage ADHD successfully. So I can send you the link to those because they're available internationally, and you can have that link on your website. But it would be good to have a similar offer from people who speak Mandarin, for example, because I think it's always better, isn't it, when somebody else with lived experience of ADHD understands what it is. You don't feel so alone or confused by it because you know that there are other people who've learned how to live successfully with ADHD. And while ADHD comes with lots of challenges, as we know, it can cause poor sleep, which can make you very tired. It can make you forgetful. It can cause difficulty with planning and organizing your day, which can make your day even more stressful. And we know a lot of people with ADHD experience anxiety and depression. But with all of that, it's often about the context we are in that determines whether ADHD is particularly challenging for us. So, for example, you might have, we know that 30% of entrepreneurs are supposed to have ADHD. We know that 40% of millionaires are dyslexic, for example. We know that there are some careers where having an ADHD brain can be really helpful. But you need to understand that there is another side to the coin, that we sometimes pay a price for being a workaholic who has lots of energy, which is a wonderful thing in the workplace, but can leave you exhausted. If you know how to manage it well, then some of those challenges will become much less, and you can make the right lifestyle choices. So we always say, for example, if you've got poor sleep, don't be scrolling on your phone or your tablet computer for an hour before you go to bed, because that's going to make getting to sleep much more difficult. Yeah. We say to people, have a very strict routine. You get up at the same time in the morning. You go. All of these things will help you manage, but it has to fit around your particular lifestyle, your career, and your family. I have a lot of parents who say, our home is chaotic in the mornings. And I say, well, you should get up 30 minutes or an hour before your children so that you can start your day well, calmly, peacefully, plan and organize your day, and then you go and wake up the children to get them ready for school before you go to work. And if you have difficulty with time blindness, because we know that sometimes with ADHD, it's difficult to have a sense of time. Often we overcommit and say, well, I'll do that in an hour, and not realize that actually it takes 2 hours. So it's really good to have all these time management tools that are going to help you manage your day. And I think if you can do all of that, whether you take medication or not, it's really important that you take responsibility and be accountable to yourself and to your husband or wife or children or colleagues at work to say, yes, I've got ADHD, and I do all of these things in order to manage it well. It's not just about getting the doctor to give us tablets. That is a fool's way of dealing with ADHD. Medication can be really, really helpful, but it should never be used on its own.
So let's talk about the medication in the UK since last September. Due to increased demand and the manufacturing issue, there has been a shortage of ADHD medication in the UK, causing concern among many patients and their families who had to search extensively for medications. although the supply issues have improved this year, and a spoken person for the DHSC said that they are working with relevant manufacturing company to resolve the remaining issues. But the problems still exist. So can you share if any members of your organization have this issue and how can they resolve this?
Okay. I think we've all experienced issues because most of the staff here have ADHD and use medication. And we've all been affected by those shortages. And you are right, Mike, while things have improved a little bit, they're still not back to what they should be. And it will be September before everything is back to the way it should be and that the supply chain has improved. There has been a significant increase in the number of people seeking a diagnosis for adult ADHD in the UK and in other parts of the world, particularly since the pandemic. So there has been a significant increase in demand. However, in the UK, the World Health Organization says ADHD affects 6% of the population. So in the UK, that would be about 3 million people, that's adults and children. But only 225,000 of those 3 million people use medication. Most of the other people don't even know they've got ADHD. But we have seen a significant increase in the number of people seeking a diagnosis as adults since the pandemic. And that's because many people who did well in school, had a good career, didn't know that they had ADHD, knew that they may have struggled. But it's that thing, isn't it? You only know your own brain. You can't imagine what it's like to experience the world through somebody else's eyes. And I use the example of, if you wear glasses and somebody took them off you and you can't see properly, would you be able to do your job? No. This little piece of technology helps me see the world. And if you're a child who is short-sighted and is struggling in school, you don't know that all the other children in your class can see the world in focus, because all you've ever known is how you see the world, which is with blurred vision, because you need glasses. And I think many adults have grown up not knowing they had ADHD, maybe because they thought, I don't think I meet that stereotype of fidgety boys who can't behave, because that was a very stigmatizing and inaccurate stereotype about children. And I think with the pandemic, a lot of people, their lifestyle choices, where they got exercise, where they were able to work as part of a team in work, where they had access to additional support in different types of technology, etc. All of that was taken away. So a lot of those things that instinctively they put in place to help them manage their ADHD were taken away because we were all locked down. And some of us also had to educate children at home. So a lot of people experienced a great deal of chaos, as well as a great deal of anxiety because of the pandemic virus. So we've seen an escalation in the number of people seeking a diagnosis, but it remains significantly underdiagnosed in the UK, and it remains significantly undertreated. But I think it is important to say, Mike, that not everybody wants to have a formal diagnosis, and not everybody wants to take medication to help them with their ADHD. I never did for most of my life. I don't think when I retire that I will continue to take ADHD medication, but I couldn't do my job. I couldn't do my job without it, if I'm being really honest. And there are some things about having ADHD that make me very good at what I do. But there are some things about my ADHD that mean that there are some things about my job that I'm really not very good at all. And it's about learning to play to your strengths and having a team around you who can help you with the things that you can't do. And it's also really important that your partner at home and your children understand that, well, we all want to be understood as human beings, don't we? We all want to be known. We all want to be loved. We all want to be accepted. And sometimes it's helpful to other people to understand that while I might be a very successful entrepreneur, I can be very disorganized at home, for example, or, it's about finding the right balance. And I think in the UK, as in many other parts of the world, where we have this better understanding and awareness of ADHD, but also we need to understand that if 1 in 10 people are dyslexic and 1 in 10 people have dyspraxia and 1 in 20 have ADHD and 1 in 67 are autistic and 1 in 10 are dyspraxic or have developmental coordination disorder, that accounts for 1 in 5 of the world population. And I would argue that if 20% of all the human beings on this planet have one of these brains that in our schools we consider to be somehow less than, then I would challenge that, because to me it seems that if there is 20% of human beings who have these different minds, then there has to be an evolutionary reason why. And that it is the universal design that we all have a unique brain that is as unique as our fingerprint, that nature and our genetics thrive on difference, and that as a social species, we like to be around people who think like us, and sometimes we like to be around people who look like us, that actually we need to embrace diversity of mind in the same way that we embrace biodiversity as integral to life on this planet, that we embrace racial diversity. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about young people today. They don't care whether you're black or brown or Asian or Chinese or white, and they don't care if you're dyslexic or autistic or dyspraxic, and they don't care if you are gay or straight. They embrace and celebrate this difference that is part of the universal design for human beings. There are 7.5 billion people on this planet. There isn't another person on this planet that looks like you or sounds like you. So while we like to be around people of like mind, we should be embracing the fact that there is a reason why other people think differently than us. So I think we have seen a significant increase in the number of people getting a diagnosis since the pandemic, but I would also say, to you and everybody who is involved with ADHD in Hong Kong, and that is that we are also now have a better understanding and a better awareness, and that there is a movement away from this idea of describing people with ADHD as disordered, because it's not something that you can cure, in the same way that autism is not something that we can cure, nor do we want to. That's like saying, well, you're not like me because your skin color is different, so I'm going to find a way to cure you of your difference. We should be embracing that difference and helping everybody thrive and be the best human being they are, whether they're dyslexic or ADHD or autistic or English, white, Chinese, black, Asian. This is the universal design, and that's something that I think is another reason why a lot of people now are much less embarrassed, less ashamed to say, I have ADHD, or I'm dyslexic, or I'm autistic. I think that's a very positive thing.
Yeah. So recently, ADHD Foundation collaborate with Amazon to develop the Amazon Alexa, aim to solving everyday problem facing by the people with ADHD. Could you share more about this collaboration with Amazon and how it aims to help those with ADHD?
Well, for those of you who use Amazon Alexa, you can program your Amazon Alexa to ring an alarm bell in the morning when you're ready to get up, but also to remind you. They can say, well, Mike, it's now 8 a.m. You need to leave the house in 20 minutes because you have a train to catch at 8:30 at this station. And today is Tuesday. It's the Monday, the 29th of May. And today you need to remember to take this into work, that report, and remember to take your gym clothes because you've got a session at the gym after work. All of these little things that will help you. And it can also be programmed to send reminders to your phone during the day. So it's a way of using Amazon Alexa as an external hard drive to your working memory, as another way of helping you plan and organize your life.
So any what activities those for the ADHD Foundation have to plan this year to contain promoting ADHD or neurodiversity issue? Or some technology you want to maybe promote, or just what activities?
Well, we are now offering a 2-year live-streamed online diploma in coaching people with ADHD, whether that's in work or in a mental health setting or an education setting. And we are going to be using AI so that we can live translate, so that you can join the seminar and it will automatically translate into a number of different languages for you so that you can watch it in real time. So that's been an interesting development because we know that coaching is increasingly a popular way of helping people with ADHD. We have delayed our conference, which is normally in June, until possibly the end of the year, but possibly even as late as March in 2025, because there is a general election in the UK, so we don't want to coincide with that. But we're involved in a number of projects, regional time-bound projects in different parts of the UK. We do a lot more training now in the Middle East and in international schools, particularly English-speaking schools all over the world. And we've also done some training programs for schools in Australia, for example. So it's often about partnerships, really. But obviously, we're always looking at advances in technology and artificial intelligence. So anything that's going to help us be able to provide more information and resource available to people. Obviously, we are a charity. We're not here to make a profit. Not that there's anything wrong with making a profit if you're in business, because that's how business works. But in order for us to be able to provide the help and support that we do, we have to generate income in other ways. So there are lots of new training programs in development that we provide for employers, for businesses around how do you get the best out of your workforce? How do you enable people to come into work and be happy and healthy and thrive and know that they've got the right kind of technology to help them do their job, for example. So there's always lots of things like that going on. And I say much more work with international schools as well, because we need to change the culture in education if we are really going to improve the life chances and the health of adults with ADHD, because most of the distress that we experience with ADHD, if we got parenting and school right and made them ADHD friendly, then adults with ADHD would have less anxiety, depression, less problems with self-medicating. They would be more employable and more likely to be economically independent and prosperous because the trajectory from school is much better. So it is, I think, crucial that we help children first and foremost.
I think also AI is so nowadays AI can help ADHD, the people with ADHD can improve their life or maybe working or something. So I think ADHD Foundation can also can help those people in the future, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I get lots of documents to read every day, as I'm sure all of you, as a PDF attachment on an email, and I can read them, but I'll never remember all that information. But if somebody gives me a one-page infographic, I will remember that. So using AI to create an infographic from a 10-page document is a really good way of being able to put information in a visual way that works better for my brain, because my brain thinks more in pictures than in lines.
Yes, me as well. So Tony, thank you very much. Thank you again very much. We hope that those ADHD Foundation and other organizations can help more neurodiversity in the future and improve their health and their life, and also increasing the public awareness about neurodiversity. 好啦，咁啊，今日都好多謝 Tony 咧同我接受我哋訪問啦。我哋都希望咧，之後啦，我哋繼續可以同 Tony 咧，可以即係嚟緊係 ADHD Foundation， 仲有啲咩資訊嘅話咧，我哋都可以繼續咧喺我哋個平台度可以一齊就可以 share 嘅。咁我哋今集時間差唔多，咁希望咧你哋咧中意今集條片可以 like、comment 同埋 share， 可以 follow 啦，同埋訂閱我哋嘅 YouTube 嘅letstalk ADHD 嘅 YouTube channel， Facebook 同埋 IG， 同埋咧都可以 follow 啦，同埋即係 subscribe ADHD Foundation 嘅YouTube 啦、YouTube channel 啦、IG 啦同埋 Facebook 嘅，咁就我哋下集時間再見，拜拜，拜拜 Tony，
拜拜。